Hey guys, a few things before this broadcast, or this episode of the podcast. Yes, that's it. Okay, so this is the full uncut interview with Mighty Mike. Big thank you to Mike, Kenzie, Siegfried, and Sam for setting all of this up. And big thank you to Radio St. Pete for letting me interview basically whoever I want and sticking them on my show. I think that Mike does a great job showing how there's a community here at Mighty Mike's, just like we have a community over at Radio St. Pete, which I get to volunteer for. Hooray! But yes, so huge thank you to them. This is the full uncut thing because I had to make a few little teeny tiny cuts to make things radio friendly, which happens. All of my guests have been aware of this, and you know me from like the Florida Folk Show. You know, sometimes we would correct people live on air, and it's not fun. But anyway, so enough of me blabbering. Let's get into the interview, and I hope that you guys are inspired and that you really enjoy some of Mike's really cool and interesting stories. I'm Get Through It Steph, and we finally have another cool guest on the show today. I'm here at Mighty Mike's Video Games, St. Pete, located at 5980 66th Street North in Suite D. They buy, sell, and trade both retro and modern video games, as well as rare video game memorabilia. And let me say, guys, I just got the tour, and holy cow, they have some rare items in here, almost like a small museum section. So I'm here with Mike and his manager, Siegfried. Siegfried, say hello. Oh, he's a shy pupper. So they can tell listeners in St. Pete and beyond some of the story behind Mighty Mike's and about their world travels, as well as get to the roots about their mission in the video game world. Okay, so before we start off, you're at this brick and mortar location. Yeah. How long have you been here, and what are your hours?
First off, thank you for having me. So we have been at this location for 6 weeks, and our hours are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 to 7. Friday and Saturday, we are 10 to 8. Sunday, we are 11 to 7 as well, closed on Mondays.
So now you're at this brick and mortar. How did you guys do business before then? And also, what inspired you to get a physical location here in St. Pete?
So it's a very crazy story. So this journey has been going on for almost 6-7 years now. And it started off, I was pawn shopping. I was bored. I collect games just like everyone else. Some people maybe not as hardcore as me. And in my downtime, I went to pawn shops, went to a couple a day, got kind of addicted. Pawn shops are cheap. So I buy a couple games. I would find local resellers to sell them to for about 50%. And I thought to myself, I'm making some okay money here. And then I started doing 10 pawn shops a day. And then I started mapping my route out the day prior. And I would do 25 pawn shops. I realized was the max that I could do in one day. So I started going all over Florida, and I would do all of Florida in about 2 weeks. And I would do that like clockwork. And after I built an abundance of inventory, I thought, what else could be out there? I started traveling the country and going to video game stores. And I happened to come upon this one store run by a gentleman named AC called Rare and Classic Games in Houston. And I went to his store, traded him a bunch of stuff that I had found in my travels, and we're talking. He goes, why don't you do conventions? And I said, well, I've heard about them. Like, what do you recommend? And he said, well, there's this one this weekend called Retropalooza. It's in Pasadena, right next to Houston. And so I called my girlfriend, Mackenzie, who runs the store with me. And she said, yeah, let's do it. So I drive home, which is about a 12.5-hour drive. I think that was on a Monday. I packed up all the stuff I owned, all the inventory. I went back. I think I got there on Thursday. I set up for the weekend, and I made a few grand, which I was mind blown about. Bought some inventory from other vendors, and I was just immediately hooked. And then I said, okay, I'm really on to something at this point. So I ended up quitting my job and LLCing my business. And then I had all this stuff stored in our apartment on all these shelves. And I thought, is there a way I can monetize this in any way? So I went to town hall, and they actually granted me all the permits to run a brick and mortar store out of our apartment. Talked to my landlord about it. He was supportive about it, as long as it was low key, wasn't disturbing neighbors, things like that. And we got on Google. We were open 6 days a week. and we had people just come by at all hours. It seemed like this really fun hole in the wall spot for customers to come by and shop. And it was just very different. People liked the idea that it was different because they would come to this store that was about 200 square feet. And they would see these rare historical video game items. That's what I specialize in. That's what I love, is these games that have history to them. And I would tell these stories to these customers, and they buy some awesome games. And we built a community pretty quickly. And we did that for about 2.5 years. And it got to the point, probably about 6 months in, that we realized we were out of room. We made it happen for the first 2.5 years. Thank God I have a patient girlfriend and dog. And we ended up finding this commercial unit in St. Pete, and we signed the lease, and now we're on 6 weeks of being open here.
Very cool. Okay, just made sure it's still recording. Don't worry, I'll cut that out. Okay, that is awesome. I love that origin story. I was going to ask you this later, but I feel like I need to ask you this now. So you had the community that would come into your original location, 200 square feet, hole in the wall, out of your apartment. And now you have this much larger space, but it still feels homey. You have, like, we're sitting on a sofa right now. There's a screen in front of us. There's video game consoles, a ton of controllers. If you look in the back of the shop, there's more screens, old TVs, and video games already set, ready to play. It seems like you're still continuing that community feel. What has been your mindset in creating that type of, like, community feel, and how are the people that used to see you then when you're in the smaller space and the people that you see now, like, what is the response? Like, what are the people that have been with you from the beginning saying, and what are new people saying when they come in?
Yeah, no, it's an excellent question. So it's funny, I've had customers that have been following me through the whole journey from the apartment store to now being here. And I keep saying this to everyone that comes in. It feels like we moved into a mansion, because although this is only 1,200 square feet, it's exponentially bigger than the apartment layout that we had. And it's funny because when we picked this place, we thought it would be a place that we would be growing into, and we're already out of room. But people that have been following us through the journey, to answer your question, they love it. I mean, they love seeing the growth. Just, I don't know, it's always nice to get a pat on your back and being told that you're doing a good job, but you realize that you're a place that people can go to hang out, that have this, like, almost safe space that they can go to get away from everything. And that's something that I believe really strongly in. So when you came in, I gave you a tour of the shop. We want to be a place that's not transactional. We want to be a place that people can go and hang out and have fun and get away from everything. Because ideally, at the end of the day, that's what video games do. They get people away from everything. You don't have to think about your day at work. You don't have to think about what's going on at home. You just get to focus on what you enjoy. So that's why we have our free play set up. So when we bring customers around, everyone that comes in, we try to give a store tour to. And a couple things that we highlight is the fact that we have all the modern consoles set up for free play. We have all the retro consoles set up for free play. And the coolest thing to me, and that I have the ability to do, being that I own the store, is anything that's on the shelves that you want to play, you just have to ask. I'll give you a couple of quick examples. This is even back to the apartment. There's a rare game on the PS2. It's the rarest game called Kuon. It's a horror-based game. Didn't do well. It didn't sell well. Copies are very hard to find. And right now it's sitting right around $1,600 for a copy. When I had the apartment store, we had a customer come in named Tyler, and he was just freaking out. Oh my God, you have Kuon? And my first answer to him was, do you want to play it? And he's like, are you serious? Like, being able to give that connection and give someone that experience means everything to me. I had a kid that came in with his mom for our grand opening, which we just had a week and a half ago. And he came back in a couple days ago. He's a big horror fan as well. And there's a game series that's really popular. They just had a movie come out called Silent Hill. The very first Silent Hill right now, it's so expensive. It's sitting at, I think, $300. But he came in, he's like, do you think I could play Silent Hill? And I asked his mom, and I said, are you okay with it? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. So he got to sit here, I think, for about an hour and play Silent Hill. And I just know that, like, that was the highlight of his day. And I got to be a part of that. And that is just so special to me. So yeah, we just love being a part of the community. We want to do a lot of events and be a place that people are just eager when they get off work to be able to come and hang out and have fun at.
That is awesome. I love hearing that because that's what it's all about. And that's like we always hear that trendy term now, the third place, like what we're missing in the world is a place to go outside of home and work where you can just be, where it's not based on transactions. I love that. Okay. So you mentioned your grand opening, and this is another question I was going to ask you later, so we will circle back to some of the other questions. So I'm so sorry I missed it. We had a going away party for Radio St. Pete musician being Heidi Allen moved to Uruguay. Congrats to Heidi. Heidi has been on Get to the Roots and Get to the Roots Extras before. And so we will still be getting her music on Radio St. Pete from Uruguay because she still is a Radio St. Pete musician. So look forward to that, everyone. But the grand opening, that was on a weekend, and I just want to hear like some of the things that you had going on at the grand opening. I saw a picture, it looked like 100 people in this space. It looked awesome. I was like, oh man, I should have gone to that. But I mean, couldn't. But so just please tell us about the successes of that, any funny stories, anything that you would change for next time, just your overall like reflection on that, anything that stood out to you.
Yeah, it was a blast. So I wasn't sure what the outcome was going to be. I think anyone that's ever had an event or been planning for an event, you always wonder what the outcome's going to be. Are people going to care? And I was pleasantly surprised. So we got here at 6 in the morning. We were prepping for weeks, but the day of the event, we got here at 6 in the morning. We, just doing cleanliness and, making sure that we're tying all loose ends together, et cetera. And I think we didn't open till 10. We had a line starting at 8. And that was a good feeling. People just camping outside. It was awesome. So we did raffles every hour. I gave 2 gift cards away. You could have gotten a raffle ticket any sort of way. You didn't have to buy anything. If you shared our event, we would give you a couple raffle tickets. If you took a picture with Siegfried, our manager, my dog, for those that are not aware, and post about it on Facebook, you would get a couple raffle tickets. So we just wanted to be a fun place to get raffle tickets from, be able to hopefully win some gift cards. So every hour we're giving away gift cards. My dad actually flew in from Massachusetts, and he does something called Factor Crap. It's actually a calendar my mom had got him years ago, where every single day was a extremely obscure, you would never know the answer whether it was true or false, fact or crap. And my dad was a high school math teacher for 35 years, and he would do as an icebreaker a few of the fact or craps for his students. And it really caught on. My dad really enjoyed it. He would be in his element. So I proposed to him that we do fact or crap throughout the day. The winners of each group, because we would do it in groups, because if we did as many people as were in here at one time, it would probably never have ended. But we did groups, and the winners of that got store credit as well, which was awesome. We had a tournament for a game that no one's ever played typically called Fusion Frenzy. That was awesome. Same thing, the winner got credit. We had tons of pizza, soda, water. I mean, it was just a absolute blast. I would say one of the most suspenseful but funny moments was one of the last Factor Craps that my dad did, the trivia, it was a massive group of people, and it was down to 2 people. It was older gentleman who is a good friend of mine and a regular at our store, and then a girl that couldn't have been older than 5. Mm-hmm. And it was down to them, and they both kept getting the answer wrong, so they kept going back and forth until one of them got the answer right. And everyone wanted the girl to win, and we weren't sure who was going to win, but we were like, God forbid the regular customer won. We didn't want this girl to cry, And she ended up winning, and the whole place just erupted for this girl. She was so happy, and just everyone's clapping for her. It was probably the coolest part of the day. If I could go back and do anything differently, it would be, and it sounds silly, is cutting the pizza into smaller slices. Biggest mistake I could have made. I think we ordered 27 pizzas over the course of the day. And I know several people just throughout the day probably consumed about 2 to 3 pizzas. Video game people like to eat. It's no secret. So that's probably the only thing I would do differently. I really couldn't have asked for a better crowd. I think we had close to 300 people the entire day. So, and everyone was just so awesome. I couldn't have asked for a better turnout.
That sounds so fun, and just a great way to bring people in St. Pete together, or people from beyond as well too, because I know if I was visiting an area and I saw something like this pop up, I'd be like, oh, this looks fun. So that is wonderful. So again, Another question that I had later was going to be about your next event, but this is a perfect segue. And speaking of segue, that sounds like Sega, and I am sitting in front of a massive, over life-size Sega Sonic the Hedgehog, and that also relates to the next event. So if you could please speak on what's coming up at Mighty Mike's again at 5980 66th Street North, Suite D.
In St. Pete. So we can't ignore, I call it the elephant in the room. We have a 8-foot, 400-pound Sonic the Hedgehog statue hanging from our ceiling. Came all the way from Dubai. Sega had a indoor theme park in Dubai called the Sega Republic, and that was hanging from the entrance of the ceiling of the theme park. 2017, they closed, and Sega moved a few of the attractions to Deezerland Park in Orlando. The owner who owned part of the building didn't want the Sonic statue there anymore, so he decided to sell it and then went through a couple hands, but now it's in our store. Turns out removing glass from your window is very expensive because Sonic did not fit through our front door, and it took about 6 of us to get him through our window, but he is now here safe and sound. But the reason that he's here is my favorite video game of all time is a game called Sonic Adventure 2, which, for those that aren't aware, Sonic has had a couple of different voice actors. Ryan Drummond is actually the voice actor for Sonic in Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Heroes, and a couple other awesome Sonic games that you should check out. So I looked it up, and I have a few friends that have video game conventions around the country, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could get a voice actor to an event at our store? So I learned about the process, which was a very interesting process, by the way. And I ended up reaching out to Ryan's wife, who happens to be his manager. And I told her about our store and my love of Sonic Adventure 2 and the Sonic series in general. And we ended up being able to work it out where Ryan's actually going to be here for a meet and greet event. That'll be May 9th and May 10th, where you can come in, you can meet Ryan. Again, it'll be a Saturday and Sunday. You can have something signed. You would have to pay for that. And then he's going to do a Q&A as well on Sunday at 2 p.m., where you'll be able to come in here and have him answer any questions that you might have. But we're just going to be a fun celebration of everything Sonic and everything Sega for that Saturday, Sunday. So we're going to have Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 set up for free play throughout the day. We're going to have Sonic items at the store that you can only buy, or you can start buying during the 2-day event. That'll be in a Sonic themed display case. We're partnering with Black Sheep, who is also in our plaza, and they're going to have Sonic themed drinks that you can get throughout the day. We're trying to get face painting right now, so you can get your face painted like Sonic. Black Sheep's also going to have Sonic Prime, which is on Netflix. You'll be able to watch that if you want to go there. We're expecting a very big turnout, so we want everyone to be able to have a place to go and hang out during the event. If you can't hang out at Mighty Mike's during the time, if it ends up being too busy, you can go next door, hang out for a bit, come back into our store and hang out. And yeah, we hope to see everyone there.
Awesome. Well, that sounds very fun and another way to get the community together, especially it's so hard. So like Radio St. Pete has like a very kind of small music community that has roots that go out into this larger community. And the same thing with the video game world. Like there are pockets of communities all across the country and a lot of people have problems finding their communities. So this is like another place where people can go to experience the things that they love that are part of that larger worldwide community. I know like before I got with Radio St. Pete, I was having so much trouble like finding my people. And now I was able to find my people. And it seems like you guys are providing a way for others to find their people as well and sharing something they love. Okay, so we are looking at the interview paper right here. So circling back, I really wanted to touch on the fact that you guys have been to Japan many times, it looks like. You said you traveled across the country before, but you have been to Japan many times to get some rare items. So I'd like to hear about how you acquire your items in Japan and then just anything else that you've taken with you from Japan, whether it's like elements of the culture or just ideas or how Japan has influenced your mindset or your business. So if you could please share about that. And I also want to say one thing real fast. When you were talking about getting the glass out of the window, your manager dog, Siegfried, made the biggest dog sigh, just like, oh, like he was remembering that moment like these people, what's wrong with them? And just did another one. So cute. Okay, so Japan.
Yeah, so funny story. We ended up going to Japan on a whim. So last year, we're traveling up to Massachusetts a lot to take care of family. And it was right around my girlfriend's birthday, Mackenzie's birthday. And I said, why don't we go to Canada? And so we're driving up, we're watching some videos about Canada and things to do. I haven't been there since I was a kid. She's never been. Watched some videos and she goes, maybe it's not for me. I was like, well, where else do you want to go? She goes, I have no idea. And I said, let's go to Japan. And she goes, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, I mean, why not? What's stopping us from going? She's like, we don't know the language. We don't know how to get around. We don't know how to drive there. Like, we know nothing. And I said, isn't that exciting? Like, let's just do it. So we ended up booking a flight. And I think we went end of December. It was right around Christmas time, which, if you didn't know, the people of Japan love Christmas. The one place that people go, I want to say no, I'm sorry. I'm getting it mixed up with, no, I'm not. Christmas Day, everybody goes to KFC. I thought that was the most interesting thing. It became a tradition years ago, and the lines will be down the street. We did go to KFC. Now I have had KFC in America. Very different from KFC in Japan. Will I say, is it a line down the street good? Probably not. Anyway, so we go there into December. We got hooked. It's as awesome as people say. The streets are really clean. Especially for someone that's a huge video game nerd like me and my girlfriend, every place you go, there is something. So my biggest takeaways are, where do I start? So every place that we went was extremely clean. And I think that's something that, although I'm kind of a clean freak, and you'll see that when you come to our store, the organization in Japan is next level. Everything has a spot. Everything has a little price tag. Everything has a little baggie. Everything almost looks like it's Christmas wrapped. I'll bring items back from Japan that is in just cellophane that someone wrapped at the checkout counter for me so I could safely bring it back to America. And I'll show that item to a customer who doesn't know that story, and they'll say, oh, this is brand new. And I'll say, no, it's not. This is just how they wrap things in Japan. It's a used item. And that they're just like, really? It is? So one of my big takeaways is organization. I've been to almost every single video game store in the country, minus a couple states. I haven't done California, Washington State, North Dakota, or New Mexico. And unless the store is open in the past couple of years, I've been to almost every single one. And it's another note, not a secret, that video game people are the most tidy people. And when I talk about this place being a place that people can hang out and a place that's not a transaction but an experience, cleanliness is really top of mind for me, and definitely a big takeaway that when I went to Japan, I said, how do I more so emulate this in my store? There's a really cool store there. It's a chain called Mandarake. You go in, they have these beautiful red arches through their walkways through most of their stores, and there are 5 floors, and every floor is a different theme of different toys, video games, etc. And they have glass display cases for every single thing there. And I said, I want to emulate that. So I only had, I think, like 5 glass display cases at our apartment store. And when we moved into this commercial space, I obviously had the option of, do I want to do wire shelving? Do I want to do bookshelves? And I said, no, I would like to emulate more of what I experienced in Japan, because I liked that experience of cleanliness and having everything on shelves and organized in that way. I felt like it gave a more professional experience to something that's typically not a tidy category, if you will. When you go to a store and you see something on the shelf, and I wouldn't say dirty is the right term, but you have a certain expectation when you walk into a store of what you're going to see and what that experience is going to look like. We want it to be different than that. So I would say that's my biggest takeaway. The other massive takeaway that I had when I was there was patience. I try to be patient. I'm not the perfect person for it, but I will say, although I didn't speak the language, the people of Japan are so patient with their customers that it was something that I really took a second to say, okay, why? Of course, I don't speak the language and we're having a back and forth, but this person, they deal with tourists every day, and I think it's very easy to get overwhelmed when you go to Japan. And I think they recognize that. So when my girlfriend and I would go to a store and I think that's reflective of how I interact with them, to where they're willing to be more patient with me because they can just see how overwhelmed I am. So when we have customers come in, we give this tour to them. The same thing happens of I'll be giving a tour and people are looking around because there's just so much to look at. And it's my job to make sure I'm patient with them. And I almost, for lack of a better word, I'm hand holding everyone through the experience because it's so cool and it's so much to look at, that we want to make sure that we're covering everything thoroughly and we're doing it at the pace that everyone's comfortable with. Sometimes when we have people come in, they just want a really quick tour. They want to look around, and that's okay. And some people, they really do want almost a museum walkthrough of our store, and we love that. And we want to be cognizant of everyone wants to be treated differently when they come in.
That's so nice. Everything you just said was so nice. I really appreciate that. Something that came to mind, and no shade, but there is a record store in St. Pete where he has a complete opposite philosophy. Actually, there's two record stores that have the complete opposite philosophy of you. One, like, you can't even walk through the aisles of the store, and it makes me so sad because they have so many wonderful things in there, so much great music, and it's like, oh, I can't even get to the back half of the store. Maybe we need to send that guy to Japan. And then there's another one, the same thing, where it's like upstairs in an industrial area where you can't even like get in basically, but it's somehow a business. It's hard. I like that you guys have created a clean space. I'm looking at your display cabinets right now and I'm seeing like Game Boy bag and I'm like, oh, I have that. Like I have that same one. And it's just so cool to see that, like, wow. And I feel like you must get a lot of people that come in, they're like, oh, wow, I remember that. Like, I know my boyfriend and I, when we go places, we go to a lot of like antique stores, we go to a lot of thrift stores. We're just like, oh, wow, I remember that. Or, oh, look at that. Like, oh, I have that at home. That's like 25 years old. Okay. So we have
a quick story if it's all right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I love quick stories. Let's hear another one.
Okay. I hope he doesn't get upset if I tell this story. So we did Tampa Bay Comic-Con last year, and part of our store is rare historical video game items like you just said. You said, oh, I have that. And that probably brought you back to a certain feeling that you had when you bought that, or you're walking around with your Game Boy, whatever it might be. It brought you back to that emotion, right? And that's really what video games do to people, is they give people emotion. And that's why we love what we do. Now, for what we have in the store, we have all these cool, rare items, and we're at Tampa Bay Comic-Con last year, and you just never know who you're going to meet. And I had this wonderful experience. We still have them, actually. So we have these Sonic the Hedgehog McDonald's bags. I hope I do the story justice. And we also have these Lifesavers, the candy. We have a Sonic the Hedgehog Lifesavers promotional display. Now, you're probably wondering where I'm going with this story. So I had a gentleman come up to me, and he was a little emotional, and he goes, "It is so cool to see these on display. My dad started the partnership with Sega and McDonald's. His dad was Tom Abramson. Tom Abramson was the second hire at Sega of America in the 90s during the console wars. And any marketing that you saw during the 90s, his dad was responsible for. Unfortunately, his dad passed away, and it was almost like an outer body experience for him, seeing his dad's items in a display case for sale. It was a really full circle moment for him, and it was really awesome. During our conversation, we had a girl come up, young girl, who was in a full Sonic cosplay costume. And she ended up buying I had a few of the McDonald's Sonic bags, and she saw it and she was so excited that she got to buy that item. So you just never know who you're going to impact. I mean, being able to meet the son of the individual that helped create that McDonald's partnership, which might not mean something to someone, but it meant everything to him. And then on the other end of that spectrum, having a customer come up to the booth who's never even met him, his dad. I doubt she was alive when that McDonald's promotion came out, but that bag meant something completely different to her. That was just so cool for everyone involved. And now his son and I are still in contact. So I think that's awesome.
That is awesome. Also, we were at your booth at Comic-Con too. Like we came by. Yeah, we did. I forgot to mention that before the free interview. But so if any of you get to the Rooters, I don't know if that should be the name of the audience of this show. If any of you guys are wondering, I work with his girlfriend's mom. So Sam is Kenzie's mom, and Sam helped set this up so I could get someone as cool as Mike on the show today. And isn't that neat how that works? All these connections in your life. Yes. Okay. So we have covered a lot of the questions that I had printed out, but we haven't talked about. There's something that I wanted to ask you so I could play a song after it in the radio show that could match as close as possible. So we've talked a lot about video games. We talked about your stories and your experiences. And we've even talked before the interview about the soundtracks that you have for video games also on display in your shop. But what personally is your favorite style of music? Like, this is going to be played on a folk show. You don't have to say folk music. If it's metal, it's fine. But what's your favorite style of music?
It is metal. I mean, I think the terminology now is also, I like dad rock, 3 Days Grace. I mean, my favorite band of all time is a band called Killswitch Engage. They're still around. They've been around forever. I've seen them live several times. I even got into music. I ended up playing guitar when I was a kid. I'm 33 now. A band called Death Clock. They had a show on Adult Swim called Metalocalypse. I ended up seeing them live a few times. I actually met I guess you want to call him singer, Brendan Small, who's also the creator of the show. I met him at the back of a House of Blues in Boston, Massachusetts, in the back of the alley of the House of Blues. And I remember I actually did a metal cover of one of his songs, and he's like, "That's really good." I don't know if he was being honest with me, but I was also 15 at the time, so maybe he was just being nice. But yeah, rock, metal, of course, video game music. We always have that going at our shop.
Thank you so much. I will find the closest folk metal tune, and we actually do have some in the Radio St. Pete database to play on the radio show after that. Okay, so we are coming to the end of our interview. I feel like we've covered a lot of things. I think we've already gotten to the core of your mission. Would that be accurate? Correct me if I'm wrong. Core of your mission, cleanliness. A wonderful, like, Japan. I feel such good vibes being in here right now, and I felt them since I walked in. I think it's the cleanliness, the organization, the glass displayations, and then the free plays. More people can sit down and just like play freely these games, not only on a modern console, but also the retro consoles as well. Thank you. I forgot that word. And then also the vibes of just like kind of the all. Like, hey, look at this special thing that everyone that comes in the store probably think is like really cool, like the Nintendo employee trophy or the PlayStation wine in your museum area. So what would you say, would that be an accurate representation of your core mission? And what else would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, obviously, businesses are here to make money. I think the money will be a result of the mission, and that mission being overall, we want to be a fun place that people can come and hang out and do what they love, and that's play video games. Like you mentioned, our retro, we have a whole retro section where people can come in, hang out, and play games. We have a modern section where people can do the same thing. People that can just come here and express themselves.
Great. Okay, so last question. This question is how I end all of my interviews. And I ask it even like the silly interviews that show up on my podcast are just like for fun, but I still ask this question to everyone. So if you had one message to everyone in the world, like everyone had to understand you and they all had to listen to you and they had to hear and understand you, and this is like what you just want to tell the world, what would you say to all these people that live on this planet?
Be kind to one another.
Excellent. Okay, I want to do a huge thank you to Mike and Kenzie and Siegfried. Even though Kenzie is not with us, big shout out to Kenzie. You guys listening, when he is talking about Kenzie, his face is lighting up so much. I don't know if you can tell by his voice, but it was really sweet to see. And I just love hanging out with him and his dog and all of these video games. Thank you guys so much. Again, located at 5980 66th Street North. The event with the Sonic the Hedgehog voice actor will be on May 9th and 10th. More information can be found on the Mighty Mike's video game Facebook page. Do you guys have a website?
Yeah, so we don't have a website, but we do have a Facebook, Mighty Mike Video Games, okay. St. Pete. And then you can also go to our Instagram, Mighty Mike Video Games. You can also go to our YouTube channel, Mighty Mike Video Games, where you can find lots of shorts and a couple of long form videos that we have made about the rare historical video game items that we get in the history of those items.
Excellent. I already have Mighty Mike's video games Facebook page linked on my Get to the Roots Facebook page as well, if you follow me there. All right. Thank you guys all so much for listening. I hope that we've sparked some interest today. I hope that Mike's stories have touched you in a way that made you think about the interesting things that have happened in your life. And yeah, just leave us a comment, call into the show. Let me know what you think about all of this. And thank you so much again.
Thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate it.